Are we live?
We've just gone live, so whether or not people get notifications and the like now, we'll see.
So basically, it switches the focus from emotion, reflection, and home life towards confidence, creativity, leadership, and self-expression. So it's been about processing, and now it's more pointing on acting on what you've learned, right? So we're basically going from a period of learning and discovery and figuring stuff out to you know what, we've got this now. Let's just go, right? Like that's kind of the vibe. Um,
Nice.
yeah, and also Mercury is just leaving retrograde, and I think most people commonly understand Mercury in retrograde usually means like communication and decision making gets stalled. It causes a lot of interpersonal relationship conflict,
Hmm.
and that's just changed. Like Mercury coming out of retrograde, usually that cycle is like conflict and communication breakdown. Communication breakdowns resolved, conflict resolves. Mercury enters retrograde roughly 4 or 5 times a year, so that's those cycles happen over and over again throughout the year.
Hmm.
Yeah, and so Adam Dewey, that's why today, we had the reconciliation between Adam Dewey and Benji Marshall because Mercury is now out of retrograde.
Well, we might have. We're
Oh,
about to talk. We're about to talk about that. Um, Phil, hello everybody that is here. I know that we were a touch late. I apologise for that. I wanted to make sure that the streaming key and everything was working well. Looks like we've got about two people watching now. How good's that?
we're
And we
killing it
start.
here at West Tigers Faithful, the number 9 now. Most popular West Tigers podcast on the internet.
Yeah, how good. And the best part is that yeah, we go right off the dial on Monday, just right at the time when people really want to be talking about the Tigers, particularly after their fifth or straight sixth loss. So I wrote another song.
All right, let's
Do we
hear it.
want do we want to kick up there?
Mate, you know what? I created this podcast as a way to promote myself as a self-help guru and some sort of cosmological wizard. If you want to use it to promote yourself as the next great open micer, be my guest.
It's not really that. It's just that who's that damn bloke that used to do the stupid songs, that's in Queensland.
Yeah,
That dude. He did the rugby league musical. I think
yeah,
I'm.
Dennis Carnahan.
Yeah. Look, realistically, this is not doing. I gave up on my music career a long time ago. More than anything, it's just to make people fucking giggle. That's realistically what it is. I have a cold at the moment, so I could sneeze at any moment, but hopefully I don't. This is called Second Last, which is a take on What's Going On by Four Non Blondes. 15 years and my brother's still yet to see West Tigers in in a game postseason. I realized quickly when I knew I should, this ownership structure is full of useless men. Fuck HBG. And so Dewey cries when he's lying in bed, and Isaac gets it all out there in the press, and I'm back in the pit of despair. So I wake on game day and I step outside and I take a deep breath and I start to cry and I scream at the top of my lungs, what's Benji done? And I said, hey, yeah, yeah, hey, yeah, yeah. Second place to second last. And I said, hey, yeah, yeah, hey, yeah, yeah. Second place to second last.
Wow, you really hit those notes, my friend.
Thank you. Dead second last. Second place to second last. Hello and welcome to West Tigers Faithful. episode number 87. We really are crawling towards 100, and really strong emphasis on crawling. It's been really tough, I think, with just the one win across 4 grades this week. Although the girls played the second team in the NRLW duopoly, so they get off lightly. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm really good. Having a great day. Had a great last couple of days. It's been a nice few days.
Great to hear. You ready to dive back into this saga?
Absolutely, my friend. Yeah, that's what we're here for. That's what we live for. Let's talk about the second last place West Tigers in the saga of Adam Dewey and Benji Marshall.
Let's do it. So Thursday, recording on Thursday, I must say I think it was a bit of a masterstroke. We got out and we sort of ran out in line with the story, and then sort of Friday, you got Christian Nicolucci coming out. Saturday, Sunday, you got Triple M and RL, Fox League, ABC Grandstand, 2GB, all giving their take on it. And then Bulldog Richie breaks a story on Sunday Arvo that realistically Dewey had done his dash at the Tigers, and that someone from AD's camp thought that the situation was untenable. And we thought that sort of was the end of things, at least temporarily. Come Monday morning with Sean Muellercamp's absolute masterclass press conference, 20 seconds. Everything's all good. He's back at training. Now, that is was until another Dean Ritchie article has dropped within the last 40 minutes, which reads, Adam Dewey only commits to play out season with West Tigers as Perth Bears circle Wantaway star. So, realistically, Dewey's only committed to remaining at the Tigers for the rest of the year. The meeting, according to Dean Ritchie, and there's two sides to every story, only temporarily eased the tension. But potentially at the end of the year, Moses and Dewey could reevaluate what comes next. And that, similar to Bronson Sherry, it seems as if that it will reach the same inevitable conclusion that he will depart his current club. Perth Bears are closely monitoring, but Dewey is under contract, and the Tigers have no plans to allow Dewey to leave. What's your take on all of that?
Great. Should be the last we hear about it until after the season is over, then, shouldn't it?
Should be. Don't know if it will be.
I mean, well, let's play our part. I mean,
Yeah.
if that's it, like if that's the best Isaac Moses can do, is say, yeah, he's going to be here till the end of the year, and the club's saying, and we have no intention to let him go, then the story is over until the end of the year, is it not?
Well, it should be. I mean, I think that they're going to milk this for what it's worth. I mean, we've got a Monday mailbag on NRL 360 that's going to start in about an hour and 18 minutes. So I know that that's going to be chaos. That's going to dominate 20 minutes of their 60-minute show. Teamlist Tuesday is tomorrow, so the early mail stories and the cameras are going to be firmly on Concord tomorrow, particularly Adam as he goes through his various drills.
And I'll pick him at 7.
If the team meeting tomorrow morning goes terribly, then I wouldn't be surprised if we hear something about that.
Yeah.
But I think it's fair to say, though, like, a lot of this has really come from Dewey's camp. From my perspective, I mean, Richie basically made it abundantly clear where he was getting his stories on Sunday. Ricky O is a Moses-affiliated journalist. Brent Reid, I've got to give my flowers to Brent Reid. He's been pretty impartial, despite the fact that he is quite close with Isaac Moses, but he had some info as well. And then there was Christian Nicolucci, who kind of gave this weird sort of inside story that just didn't hit the mark, but nonetheless kind of, shed some sort of insight, I suppose. I like Nico, but yeah, that was a weird one. But yeah, I don't really have to. I think that while we would like to think it's done, I know this club back to front. And I know the scrutiny that it's consistently under. So I'm not too sure.
Sure, I understand. But I also understand that that is only because everybody keeps giving people like Bulldog Richie and Isaac Moses oxygen every time they do this stuff.
True.
That's why they keep doing it. So while you're right, like there's this, and we do this all the time. We always speculate as Tigers fans because we care so much and we focus so intently on everything that happens. We're not doing anybody any favors, even ourselves, by continuing to do that every time that this sort of stuff happens. Um, our opinion on how Adam Dewey has played this out and how Benji Marshall has played this out. I want to talk about that. Like
Oh,
I think that's something that I'd like to share my opinion on, and I'd love to hear yours. Um, talking about second order effects, what may or may not occur is fun. And I understand a lot of people, they kind of listen to podcasts and stuff because everybody's addicted to that kind of content. And so from that perspective, like, let's indulge ourselves for a second. Sure, it's probably not over. Sure, NRL 360 is going to talk about it. I think that I really liked Bo Ryan's take on Triple M this morning. Bulldog Richie's story was fake news and dog shit journalism. I think Bo Ryan probably got that information directly from Benji Marshall and probably
agreed.
from Adam Dewey as well. Uh, I, I back myself to be a pretty good, a pretty intuitive person. I think I can tell when somebody's feeding me a load of crap. Benji Marshall's press conference after the game was the first time in a very long time that I felt like he was not being cagey. And I feel like he was just punching straight. And I don't feel like that there was any bullshit in anything he said whatsoever. Potentially, with the exception of when he answered the question as to whether there was any other players that came to him upset. I think he took the opportunity to take that one more literally than the journalist intended it to be asked, because he answered it and he said, "No, nobody came to me upset. Oh, sure, I had a lot of players coming to me talking to me about it, but nobody was upset."
Yeah.
But aside from that, I think he was pretty direct, and I think that I came out afterwards and posted on X that after that press conference, I had made a pretty firm choice that I'm going to back Benji Marshall,
Yeah, I like this.
and I'm going to do it because there was a very narrow path that I thought Benji Marshall could navigate after that game and after this Dewey fallout in terms of how he reacted publicly, and he pretty much walked through exactly the path, and that was being 100% transparent and honest, and his explanations having validity. And I think that the way that he spoke about Adam Dewey, you know, is there a chance that Adam Dewey could possibly walk back into Concord after this? Of course there is. Like, why wouldn't there be? Like, but, like, like how could that? Like, we're men here. Like, people have bad days. They have emotions. Like, what are you talking about? Like, he cut through the noise so beautifully. I thought, showed Adam Dewey so much grace, and I think showed why players want to play for him. And then suddenly, like, really, when I sort of sat with his, and if you haven't seen the press conference, please do yourself a favor and go watch it. And I really want you to watch it. I want you to try to keep an open mind when you're watching it and not like watch it like with all of your preconceived biases about Benji and the club and HBG and stuff like that, and just watch it as though you're being talked to by a bloke that you trust. And I guarantee you it'll take on a whole new perspective. I thought that for me, it made me start to go, okay, all right. So if I'm going to back Benji Marshall, it got me back on the straight and narrow and thinking clearly. What does the club need to do? How does the club go from here? What may have happened to cause all of this? And I came up with answers. Like, I think being able to take away the easy out, which is blame the coach, blame the culture, blame HBG, etc. There are explanations for where we're at that are not.
part of this continuous narrative, which is that the West Tigers just can't win. The West Tigers are just a failure club, and the culture and the losing is built into the walls and stuff like that. And I think largely, I kind of think that there's a bit of misinformation, I think, being spread around about the state of the Tigers roster that I want to challenge. I think that our performances in the first quarter of the year kind of, I think, paper over a lot of roster issues that this club still has that I think are pretty obvious. And the main one is we still lack physically dominant players in positions where you need physically dominant players.
Okay. Is it simply your understanding or your thesis of the beginning of the year papered over the cracks? Or is it more that when these blokes are up for it from a strength and conditioning perspective, are up for it mentally, and don't possess any distractions, that they can put their best foot forward? Because from my perspective, I look at what happened on Saturday, and a lot of it, from what I could see, was the middle collapsing because our blokes looked shot in terms of they looked so lethargic and so behind the eight ball compared to Canberra. But if I have a look at what they did to Canberra at Leichhardt, or what we did to New Zealand in Auckland, or what we did to Newcastle at Campbelltown, it was the same forward pack doing a completely different thing.
Well, I liked Benji's response when he was asked directly, and it was the first time I've actually ever heard a coach really say it. Are the distractions causing issues? And he said, yeah. I mean, if the coach isn't making an excuse for that, then that's your answer. And right now, that, are there distractions? Yeah, heaps. Like,
Yeah,
you know
but
what I
that's yeah, absolutely. There's distractions, but
mean? So, but
let's
that's a compound effect, is my point, right?
okay. So is it more that we need more resilient footballers as opposed to their player profiles and their talents? Is that where you're coming from? Do we need to build? Do we need to invest more into sports science?
I think it's a there's a fair few different things, Jared. But if you start by going, what could have prevented us from falling away, right?
Mm.
Benji said something in the press conference. He said nobody was saying anything about me as a coach when we were winning. Nobody was saying anything about the club when we were winning. We started losing. Here we go. All right. First principles: stop losing. Okay. We won't have to worry about whether or not the club has, a resilient culture if we keep winning games. Okay. So the question we have to ask is like why we stopped winning in the first place. And to be honest, why do you think we stopped winning in the first place, Jared? Be honest.
I think we stopped winning because of a few different for a couple of reasons.
Why did we get pumped by the Sharks?
We got pumped by the Sharks that day because we lost multiple players, and Tino Tavana had a stinker, which compounded the amount of times that they were on our line. And
Yep.
then again with the blokes that we had at the back end of the roster that were called up onto that edge that day, we really struggled for combos and cohesion, and effectively we were broken down.
Yeah. So I agree 100% with you. Everything. Totally aligned. So we lost a few players that day.
Yes.
They didn't come back the following week, did they?
Well, Sam Weller and Adam didn't. That's for certain.
Wasn't that also the week Appy got suspended, or was that like the week after or the week before?
It was the week. It was the week before he wasn't there at that time. Yes, Tristan Hope was at 9 that day.
Okay, cool. So we got pumped by the Sharks because we lost Adam Dewey and Sam Weller in the run, and we were without Appy in the first place, right?
Yep.
Okay. And
Oh, and Kai Pearce-Paul was out that week too. Worth noting.
cool.
So
All right.
that edge at one point was Sukkar, Madden, and then I think it was Herbert and Tavana.
Right.
So
So
reserve grade quality. Let's call it for what it is.
So
the West Tigers when we are with our 1 to 17 and, well, 1 to 19 or whatever, first, and to be honest, not even really our first pick because we were actually like doing pretty well without Lua, weren't we? But with our starting physically dominant players, i.e., with the ones that you need to, get behind, the middles, the pack, the back rowers, and outside backs, we were competitive.
Yep.
As soon as we lost a couple of those players, we were no longer competitive. As
Yes.
soon as as soon as we as soon as we lost one game and we had to start to lean on too much depth, then the losses started stacking up. And then what happens? Then you have to call on resilience, right? Then you have to start to deal with the West Tigers themed noise, the West Tigers unique problems that once shit goes downhill, it starts to snowball, and the snowball effect is largely caused by the media. The snowball effect is largely caused by the noise. And Benji Marshall spent a lot of the year trying to, I don't know, rewrite reality and pretend that that's not a thing. And he's learned in real time. It is. It is a real and very specific thing that the West Tigers experience that most other clubs do not. We're not the only club in world sport that experience this. There are a few
Yep.
clubs that have similar problems. The Philadelphia 76ers in the NBA have a very similar problem. When the Philadelphia 76ers start losing, they they go under the spotlight and the microscope in ways that other clubs don't. The New York Knicks went through that for 30 years and just won. It's a problem that's caused by being under the microscope in a big media market, having a lot of years of no success. And Benji Marshall's learned in real time that you just can't pretend that it's not real. And now he's got, and this is the thing with Benji Marshall is when he realizes things, he doesn't take very long to figure out how to adapt to them.
Agreed.
And I think that he's only just figured out now that this is actually just a thing that's like beyond the pale. I think he's finally arrived to the point where we were at from day one, which is strange to say, but to be honest, it's not that strange to say because like we've had continuity of perceiving this that Benji Marshall hasn't had. Like he did leave the club, he was playing elsewhere, he had a lot of success at the club. Um, and I think he probably also maybe to some extent maybe thought that like the tactic was to just try to like actually just blast through it and pretend it wasn't real. But he's kind of realizing now that that the tactic is actually probably more so to acknowledge that it's real and actually ride it out with his team and be more empathetic and not object to it. But now I'm speculating about what I expect the man to deal with. But like the way that he reacted in the press conference makes me kind of feel like I might be on the money from that perspective. But I think what you just said, we are in a situation where Benji Marshall has to solve two problems. And if he solves one of them, he may solve the other, right? Problem one is the roster, depth. Problem two is how we handle adversity. How we handle adversity, that's that's deep, man. That's a deep-seated, painful thing. If you really want to go at it, you handle adversity by avoiding it. You know what I mean? Like you try as best as you can to stack on those wins and keep getting stronger. Um, and work on adversity at the same time, but it's like 80-20, right? Like we gotta have a win at all costs mentality. We gotta keep strong players on the field. We gotta keep turning over the roster. We just gotta keep going. And we gotta be honest. Fucking honest. This side fell apart when we lost Samuel Afino and Kai Pierce Paul. Therefore, we have to find ways to cover if that happens again. We cannot deal with Taylor May not being in this side. He is our strike outside back. We are impotent without him. There is nobody else in the side that we can go to do something crazy or to like, make a line run against the grain and score a try right now. Well,
They went and signed Jake Averillo. There's talk that they're going after Rocco Berry to improve depth there. They went and signed Junior Tupou. They're letting go of Staffy Toa. They're obviously letting go of Jarrell Skelton. They're trying to make moves like that.
Yeah, linked with Rocco Berry.
Rocco Berry. So there's I think that they know what. I think that they have a plan. I think that they have the right of things, and I think that in terms of we talk about us not having any ability to affect outcomes. If we have any ability whatsoever to affect outcomes, it's noise management. Like that's the only place where we as fans can actually affect these outcomes. We've essentially got people like Isaac Moses, Richie, NRL 360, and stuff like that, who set us up to contribute to our own club's failure every time this happens. They do it every time this happens, and we walk into the trap every time and start making it harder for the club. And what are you going to do if you're the club? You're gonna look at the fans and start to be like, man, our fans. Like what? Like I wish they'd stop watching NRL 360. I wish they'd stop listening to the media instead of listening to the coach during the press conferences. Like we've got Sean Mielenkamp, who's now paved the way here. He walked out in a press conference this morning and gave the media 20 seconds, gave nothing. That's what we've got to do. We've got to give them nothing too. We've got to try to stick to footy talk for a while here, at least from my perspective, because I'm choosing to back the coach, right? I feel like I have a good justification for backing the coach. I'm happy to talk about what that justification is at length to anybody who wants to ask. There's a whole thread on X. I put it up there, and a whole bunch of people disagreed with me, and that's totally fine. And if your objective is, you don't want to back the coach, and we think we need to move on to another coach, perpetuating the media narratives is a surefire way of achieving that outcome. That's definitely what will happen.
Good point. I want to go back to what you said, that there's two fixes that they need to make. One is making changes to the back end of the roster, and I think that, as you say, they have a plan to do that, and they haven't been cagey about that at all. So that's one part of it. The other part of it that I wanted to sort of touch on was, obviously, you said dealing with adversity. Now, resilience was something that they really wanted to build into their mindset, and they built their preseason around it. And I think that they were resilient in game, but I think that external adversity that came around noise of Jerome Luai, and then obviously what we're seeing now and the coupling of the losses has made it continually worse. Is simply just dragging it out into the light and talking about it. That's one part of it. But how do they continue to understand what is required to build adversity into these men, off the field? Because I know that they can do it for them on the field. And as I've said, and I said it in a couple of the podcasts when you weren't here, when Rob was in the seat, that I think that Musa knows how to get these blokes prepared, at the beginning of the season. But the issue is that we're falling off from a conditioning standpoint, which is being exacerbated by everything that is going on in terms of that external noise, and again, that lack of dealing with adversity. What are the next steps for Benji Marshall, his coaching staff, and this club to ensure that the entire organisation knows how to deal with adversity?
Okay, so I think that it's actually pretty hard to prove that we were losing games because of our inability to deal with adversity until about when we got pumped by 52 weeks in a row, right? Prior to that, I feel like that we were losing games because we didn't have the cattle to do the game plan that we were winning with, right? So from that perspective, I think that was also around the time where the noise started. Okay, I don't think that the noise started with Adam Dewey. I think the noise started with origin and non-selection and things like that. I think that the media started beating the drum on the West Tigers, and that's when the wobbly boot came on. So the question is, how do the West Tigers develop players who can lose, experience the media starting to beat the drum and make noise, experiencing the fans doing this.
The biggest lesson, really quickly.
You're in uncharted waters. Like
Yeah.
I can speculate. Like I can come up with ideas and stuff like that, and I have been for years. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is the same conversation that we've had time and time again, year in, year out. So, like, but the thing is that you're in uncharted waters, and maybe you're in uncharted waters because there is no answer. You know, like, is there really an answer to how do you make a person not be a human in a situation where everything's falling apart around them? The media is beating the drum over their heads. Their kids are getting bullied at school over it. Their fans are getting bullied in the workplace over it. Their fans are posting shit on social media. Punters are sending them death threats via SMS. Everything's getting played out in the media. Like, at a certain point, like, do you continue to say the club's not good enough at actually, like, helping these men deal with it, or do you just start going, these men shouldn't have to be dealing with this shit?
Well, I mean, it is a chicken and the egg scenario, isn't it? And in a lot of ways, it does come back to around what is the environment that he's built and the culture that he's sort of brought from the top down from the ownership. What I will say is this, in regards to, it can be really hard to get out of this, and you're right, there are so many different parts of this in terms of how difficult it would be for this, this playing group and this coaching staff. And I've heard bits and pieces that a lot of them are really struggling with it. We have to remember that a lot of these guys come out of the Penrith system. They're not used to things like this. They're not used to losing in this manner. It's not something that, was particularly in their vernacular. I'll say this. If we need to win another game, I mean, that goes without saying, of course we do. But the key lessons will be in winning a match, because it will be understanding the processes that were involved that week and being able to understand what it took and what mind frame they were supposed to be in, and what the preparation looked like. I don't know whether it comes this week. I don't know whether or not it comes, in the St George match or any of them further down the line. But this pressure isn't going to go away. We're going to be back page news, and we're going to be, in the headlines for the next few days at minimum. There is going to be a lot of chat around, particularly, as I mentioned, if Dewey is playing, this noise will not go away at all. So, but this is what I mean. It's the whole pressure makes diamonds cliche. Only if, once again, there is a lesson to be learned and a process in which they can sort of pin to the wall, if they find a win. But they may not.
Well, but they know how to win. Like, that's the thing. Like, they've done it. They know what winning looks like at this club. They know what they need to do to win games. I've heard people say, yeah, that was before every other side got, into mid-season form and fitness, and our side's fitness has fallen off a cliff, and everyone's playing injured and stuff like that. And I don't agree. Like, we were winning games, like, well and truly past the point where sides got into match fitness territory. Every side's got players playing injured. We've almost got back to full strength, for Christ's sake. Like, there's, like, the fitness is not an issue anymore. I think you just have to go back, and you just got to go back to simple brass tacks. I actually think that that's probably an area Benji zigged when he shouldn't have on the weekend. I noticed they were running shapes they've never run before. Heaps of this, Happy Chorus out doing wraparounds and, like short balls to Sione Fainu and, like, back-to-back plays and stuff like that. It was just unadventurous, just, like, trying too hard stuff.
I thought the runarounds were ridiculous. My only food for thought was they only really occurred mainly around the time when we didn't have a ball playing 13, and maybe that was where the absence of Dewey sort of, and Latu to a lesser extent, sort of showed. Maybe it was more that he was looking for a distributor, but I agree, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, and to be honest, like we were not hiding to nothing on the weekend because of that.
Yep.
Like because,
But in saying that, really quickly, and it probably sort of takes us into the game sort of thinking. That first half, when we had the ball in hand, there was actually space for Jerome Buller, particularly around midfield, and he actually created some things. And I'm not just saying necessarily the Tavana try. Buller's been whacked from pillar to post this week. And yes, he should have made the tackle on Kaya Weeks. Yes, he should have recovered the ball when Jerome Luai put that grubber through. I get all that. But that was the best he's looked out of the back of shape in months. Genuinely months. And he's throwing cutout balls and all kinds of things. And it makes me wonder how much of an issue Adam Doueihi was at 7. The fact that, we spoke about at the beginning of the year, needing a fundamental number 7 that can, produce those sort of subtleties in ball play in terms of playing nice and square, telling lies with eyes, going deep into the line and creating space. And then suddenly Jerome had it on the weekend.
yeah, and you know what, I'm not going to talk about Jerome Buller specifically, but what I will say is that I've never really been a fan of Adam Doueihi at 7. Never really been a fan of the Adam Doueihi Jerome Luai halves experiment. I'm not. I mean,
afraid. You were advocating for it late 25. I will say that.
Advocating for Adam Doueihi to play 7.
Yeah.
Yes, at the time we didn't really have any better options, and at the time we started winning games because of it. So, but like that being said, like I think that in the long term, my perspective on it has always been I don't feel like it's a sustainable long term thing that we could particularly do. I also made that point at the time because I kind of felt like Jerome Luai was a fixed object in place. Like I didn't think that there was any reality in which that we were going to be able to move on from Jerome Luai. Otherwise, my perspective on it probably would have been I would have preferred Adam Doueihi at 6 the whole time. But anyway, my point is I am pretty comfortable with what we're going to be going into 2027 with, regardless of what happens. Like, so I actually think that if we can forget about all of this temporal cognitive dissonance and chaos that surrounds the Tigers, once they get out of the media in the off season and back to camp, they're going to have a better halves combination. I think that they're going to have, 2 young stars, some cap space to play with. Like there's upside here that nobody wants to bother talking about. I think that Latu Fainu, I'd love to have seen what reality we'd be in right now if Latu Fainu didn't get suspended this week. Like, because it probably would have materially changed everything. Latu Fainu, who would have known how Adam Doueihi had reacted if it would have been like, Adam, you're playing 13 and Fainu's playing 7? Because he would have at least been used to it. Like, what did picking the debutant rookie out of New South Wales Cup and giving him Adam's jersey do to Adam's frame of mind and like that kind of stuff is impossible to predict. But I will say that I think that we probably it's academic. It's still the same point. The same point is that like we don't have cattle. We don't have cattle as soon as like a couple of things go wrong, but we have a strong enough 1 through 19 without Jerome Luai to win games. This week, we should see a side from today onwards training all week without disruptions that has won NRL games here, like this year. So do what you did when you were winning. Don't get away from it just because of all of this crazy shit that's happened between then and now. And you may just find yourself winning. You may like why would that not work? Like what consequentially can you tell me for certain stops us from winning this game if we prepare for Parramatta the same way we prepared for Parramatta last time we beat them?
Yeah, I agree. That's but we'll see. I mean, Benji again. That candid press conference shone a light on where his head's at. I think, as you said, he's learned on the run, but we'll see. Now, I want to go back to what you were talking about in terms of there being optimism for next season. A lot of it I do agree with, but at the same time, we've also spoken about just probably 5 minutes ago around the runarounds and the fact that just looked like a man that was bereft of ideas. I've been of the opinion, and I'm less sort of that opinion than what I was probably a fortnight ago, but I still am pro Benji. But I believe that he needs new people in the building to challenge him, particularly his director of football, of which Pat Richards and Shannon Glenn jobs share. Both are inexperienced, with all due respect to the pair of them. And then we've got two assistants in John Morris and Chris Hyington and Brett Hodgson, which we have believed for some time, Bomber probably aside, are not up to NRL assistant standard. I look at a guy like Todd Payton and what he did this year. Really changed his backroom staff up, was on a hiding to nothing and was sort of given 8 games to turn it around. And you look at what he's managed to do, I think that's the blueprint. Does Benji Marshall have to do something along those lines? And we're already being linked with people like Shane Flanagan and the like via Danny Weidler. Does Benji Marshall need to do something like that to ensure that there is systemic change within our style of play and the way that we do things from a structural perspective?
It's a rabbit hole because the simple answer is it would make sense. There's no harm, right? Logically, in bringing in an extra brain, an extra pair of eyes, some experience. Sounds like a great idea. It sounds like a logical idea. But if you listen to what I just said, right? If you solved all of the problems, with the roster instead, and we managed to get the same start next year as we did this year and not fall off and not have unfortunate suspensions and we have better cover when injury hits somebody in a key position, and we manage to continue to win some games and say we get through to Origin intact, still riding high. Do you need Shane Flanagan to do that? No. Shane Flanagan's not going to come in and achieve that. Shane Flanagan's not going to accomplish anything. What Shane Flanagan or any kind of new coaching assignment is going to do is placate people. It's going to placate a couple of things. It's going to make people go, okay, at least Benji's willing to, do that, right? At least Benji's gonna how good is that? Is that important to me? No. Who's it important to? The media, some fans who probably just have a different perspective to me, whatever. I don't want Benji making decisions to placate people, right? But if you're going to say he just definitely needs it because, he can't make attacking shapes happen and stuff like that, I would say, look, total validity. I think I've been on the record saying it makes perfect sense to bring in more senior coaching officials and stuff like that. What I will add, though, is if Shane Flanagan was here halfway through the year as the assistant this year, what would the media narrative and the fan narrative be right now?
That'd be terrible. I think that the fan base is divided on many things at the moment. But I think that they would be particularly divided on a mid-season appointment for Flanagan, without question.
That's not what I meant. What I meant was, if somebody of Shane Flanagan's status in the game had been the assistant coach of the West Tigers throughout 2026, what would the media narrative be right now?
That he's in the background.
We should be moving on to Shane Flanagan. We've got a built-in senior coach right now. Benji Marshall needs to leave. And what would people like Isaac Moses be leaking to the media right now? And what would people like Shane Flanagan's agents be leaking to the media?
That's right. They'd be doing the PR campaign similar to what they're doing for Adam doing now. I don't disagree with you at all.
So you can understand why Benji Marshall would. He's a smart man. Clearly a fucking smart man.
Okay. Is it, just really quickly, mate, is it just to do with Isaac Moses' affiliated clients? Because let's look at Parramatta, right? Parramatta, Parramatta are going like bastards. Let's face it. They put up a good fight against Penrith on the weekend, But realistically, they've had a lot of injuries, but realistically, Ryle's turned that squad over quickly. He's got a lot of what he wants, and realistically, he's not doing what people sort of thought he would. He might turn it around next year, but right now he isn't. On his coaching staff sits Nathan Brown, a bloke that has gotten teams to preliminary finals before, has been at multiple clubs in multiple different roles, and there is not a single whisper to do with Nathan Brown being on that coaching staff and potentially usurping him. With that in mind, is it just the Moses clients that we need to steer clear of?
I mean, we need to steer clear of Moses clients, especially coaching-shaped ones. But no, I don't necessarily think so, because I think that it's Nathan Brown's not really got any designs on being a head coach, so he hasn't got any kind of skin in the game. Like that, he's on the record of that. Like he doesn't want to be an NRL head coach anymore.
Okay, well, what about T-Baz at Brisbane that just interviewed for the Dragons job?
Brisbane is a different club, man. I think that I mean, who knows? Like Brisbane is a little bit unstable at the moment. You know what I mean? Like there's always talk of Madge going here or there. So who knows what impact that's having on the club? Just let me get my point out, because it's a valid point what you're making, and it deserves a thoughtful response. John Morris is a former head coach, and he's at the club, and we're not hearing any kind of whispers about him wanting to take over. Yeah,
but there are whispers that he's leaving.
Yeah, but that makes sense, But the thing is that it'd be like bring in assistants, but I wouldn't be bringing in any kind of icons. I wouldn't be bringing in anybody who, a bored drunk Dean Ritchie on a Thursday afternoon could build a realistic narrative to say that the Tigers should be moving on to this coach anyway. Even if this coach himself has nothing to do with it, right? You don't want people you don't want somebody to be able to build a justifiable narrative that's just going to further rock the club. If we're going to bring in assistants, we should go looking for young, progressive, high quality talent, not dinosaurs just because they've been there before.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't really know who, because this is the thing.
Yeah, they'd be nameless people.
That's right, because that's the thing. We follow the NFL, and the OC is a big deal. The DCs are a big deal, and a lot of them come from absolutely nowhere and end up with head coaching jobs. And that's what the Tigers are going to have to find. They are going to have to go and find an absolute attacking wizard from somewhere after doing their homework and looking into who it is that they think is right.
Jared Reedy.
Not a chance.
Maybe they should get Adel.
Well, he's got some ideas, that's for sure.
I think what they could do before you try to go to market and bring in outside help, you really got to take stock of whether or not you're actually running your operation correctly in the first place, right? And there are guys in the club, Shane Sultana, Tyrone McCarthy, who have had good results, right? So if we're going to go looking for some sort of wizard, look internally. Like Shane Sultana might be inexperienced in the grand scheme of things, but he has shown several years in a row that he has some X factor as a coach, right?
Mm.
Why not bring him into the off season and put him in the first graders and see what ideas he has?
Yeah,
he might be a wizard.
I love these ideas. I would love to see it. I mean, I look at what Sultana's been able to do, and it is very similar. And they had a win on the weekend, Fleck.
Now he better come in. Now that I pushed his barrow as a potential first grade assistant, he better come on the podcast.
I know he listens to this, and now they had a win this week, so maybe he'll be listening out to
Shane Sultana. The one thing I will say though is those sort of appointments aren't going to move the needle publicly, are they? So if the Tigers and Shane Millenkamp and Benji Marshall went, yeah, we do need to fill the club with, some progressive young coaches that have good ideas, and then it's Josie Flegg coach promoted to NRL assistant. No, you know what I mean? You and I'd sit there and be like, okay, yeah, that's something. But 99% of the media now and the fan base would just be like, they've done nothing. They've just promoted another Nepo hire. Blah, 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 blah.
So I guess the point I'm trying to make is like
Doesn't matter.
there's probably nothing that they can do that's going to like actually like be perceivable that's going to do anything. And look, I mean, if you could do something like I don't know, man, like Wayne Bennett. There was rumors this week that he's maybe on the outer at Souths, right? Maybe you can go, Wayno. Surely it's time to hang him up as a head coach. Come and play the Phil Gould role at the West Tigers, please. Like that, something like that. That's a game changer, right? Like that's fucking yes,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yes, please. Like, is there somebody else in the NRL that you could potentially come and get to play that role? Maybe somebody like Billy Slater might be interested. You know, he hasn't necessarily had the best couple of years as the Origin coach, but he's seen rep footballers. He is a genius player. Bring him in and see if he wants to make the transition to the NRL. I don't know. There are some palatable versions of it. It just certainly wouldn't be for me like anything like an Adam O'Brien or a Shane Flanagan.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. What I know is, from my perspective, and the stats backed it up when we did our mid-season review, we haven't been able to convert in the red zone. We don't do a terrible job back when we were half decent. We didn't do a bad job at creating set restarts because we were constantly winning the collision and teams were holding on for dear life. But our conversion rate was horrific. I don't know whether or not it's just simple tweaks, or whether or not it's the evolution of a very, very young squad. But from my perspective, I would like to see Benji Marshall be challenged beyond what he has currently at his disposal.
Who in the current NRL team do you expect to score tries in the red zone?
Wingers.
Yeah, but like in the West Tigers 1 to 19 players, who do you look at and go, there's your try scorer?
Taruva.
Okay, one player. Got any other names? Buller?
Yeah, Buller. Taylor May went fit, absolutely. And he and Marcy Makasini. And when he joins us, Jake Averillo. I actually think that there is a really potent backline there. Genuinely, I do.
I'm talking about it, like, let's talk about it from the perspective of like over the last period where we've been terrible in the red zone, right?
Okay.
Through the period we've been terrible in the red zone, we have snails, mate. It's a roster problem. Like you don't really have anybody. And here's the thing. And this was a real epiphany and wake up call moment for me. When Jerome Luai got the ball out of nowhere and went whoosh, 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 grubber, he made a try. He made a try happen, right? And he did it with lightning footwork and like just X factor out of nothing. I've been Jerome Luai's probably biggest naysayer of any of the pundits, right? I was then and there when I went, that's the justification for why Benji Marshall picked him over Dewey and kept him in the side. Adam Dewey did not do that. There is no fucking way in the world. And in a side where you have no one who can create points, like he's the only guy who could possibly have done that. And then Jerome Buller went and dropped the ball. But this is not Jerome Buller shit on him ours. The point I'm making is there is nobody with any leg speed or flair that's actually like going to threaten anybody. Everybody in every opposition that we've played over the last like 6 weeks, just all they have to do is number up, dude. There's no threats. There's no threats, man. No threats. Like and Adam Dewey ain't threatening nothing. Not with that injured shoulder.
Yeah.
And he's become and like, you know, when he was threatening people earlier in the season, he had threats around him. Now everybody goes, well, you know, I trust that, you know, as long as somebody numbers up on Patrick Herbert or Stafford Toller or whatever, they're going to be right. So that means that we can get up and in and, you know, get numbers into the tackle on Dewey because he's probably just going to dummy and run it anyway, right? Adam Dewey will beat us one-on-one because he's strong. But so we can just man up on Adam Dewey, you know, jam in, and it's just easy. It's just easy, and it's easy because we just do not have quality threats in the side ever since we lost KPP and Taylor May. Now, it's bananas to say Kai Pierce-Paul and Taylor May are that important to this side,
But really, all you have to do is look at what the side looked like last year before Kai Pearce-Paul came and what it looked like from round one until when Kai Pearce-Paul got injured. What the side looked like prior to Taylor May getting his exemption and coming into the side last year, and when Taylor May started playing injured. Those two guys are X factor in the back line and X factor in the forward pack. And without them, you've got plotter and plotter. Fix that, right? Fix that. Let's start there. Next year, is Marcy Marcassini going to be a better left centre for if Taylor May goes down? Of course. He's going to be 20 years old. He's going to have another off season. He's going to be bigger. He's going to be stronger. He's going to be fitter. We hope, as long as he doesn't like develop Moses Sully syndrome from being overexposed too young. Is Jake Avarillo going to be a better right centre, pushing Sunia Taruva back to right wing? Of course, especially with Kai Pearce-Paul there. So basically, you know, as much as it sucks, I can totally like justify saying that our season went in the toilet because we lost Taylor May and Kai Pearce-Paul, especially when we lost Samuel Afainu, Api Coruscant, Kai Pearce-Paul, Adam Dewey. During that period, there was enough issue in terms of roster construction that then fed all the narrative so that all the noise came back in, right? And then it was too late. You bring them all back, but now they're playing under this fucked up noise cloud.
Parko raises a really good point that the Sharks, nor even probably Penrith, with the exception of Casey McLean, aren't particularly quick. You know, you do have your Manleys and your Canberras of the world, but the two teams that are probably the most informed in the league have the best attacking structures and execution, and I think that's a really fair point. And for me personally, what you say about the roster is absolutely true, but I think it's two-pronged in the sense of you also need the attacking structures in place that you can lean back on that are, you know, executed via the spine that allow you to create points in the absence of strike. Now, obviously, you want to continue to recruit and have people underneath the depth chart that do have those you know, parts of their game without question. But in saying that, I think that good structure and good roster is what creates, you know, elite attacking teams. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and we weren't fast even when we were winning, but we were like, we had quality, right? So you can win with like a solid, experienced, like physically strong side without fast flair. Yeah, 100%. Sharks, Penrith, early season West Tigers, right? As soon as you've got none of either, and what Penrith do have that we don't have is physically strong middles. Physically strong middles that dominate the ruck. Certainly dominate the ruck against us, didn't they? Both sides. And they both. Nathan Cleary is genuinely a good run threat. He is an underrated runner of the ball. They have Blaise Talangi, who is, you know, to say he's not quick is a joke. He's been one of the quickest sixers in the NRL. Nico Hines is probably one of the best run threat halves in the NRL. Right? So to say that they have no speed or like, you know, no like skill in that way is probably like, you know, you're probably looking at their outside backs and saying that their outside backs don't really look like that. And to that, I would agree with you, but they've got us covered, you know, in the middle. They've got us covered for speed in the halves. And they're, you know, let's be honest, like they're better than us in the outside backs when it comes to, like I said, Taylor May makes everything different. You don't need to have 4 lightning fast, 4 origin players. You just need somebody who can threaten enough to take the pressure off the next guy, that then takes the pressure off the next guy, and the rising tide lifts all boats, right? Without the strike weapon, it doesn't make the guys either side of him a threat anymore. It doesn't make the guys either side of them a threat anymore.
Fair enough. All right, being conscious of time, and I think this has been a really good chat uncovering what the issues are and working out where they are, and I think we're pretty much in agreement for the most part. I just want to talk about Javon Andrews really quickly. I thought he had some good touches, particularly with his kicking game. I actually think that he produced two really clear attacking kick opportunities, one of which Canberra went to score upon, which you could argue was a knock on. Another one was down the right hand side with Tavana that was pretty close to a try too. I thought he looked a bit cramped on the right hand side. You could tell he wasn't naturally sort of used to it, and he deferred the football to Buller a little bit, but that's okay. But he looked at home in attack. Defence, he's got work to do, but I will give him some grace, mainly because he was parked on an edge that he wasn't used to. And trust me, when like playing, on one side for so long and then moving, particularly when he went up a grade, sometimes it can be pretty difficult to try and wrap your head around. That said, sometimes there were some efforts that weren't great, but as Benji said, they knew that there was going to be moments there. It was just how the team dealt with it, and obviously they didn't do that. Fair to say?
Man, yeah, and I saw enough in him to be like, yep, first grader, and that's all you want from a debut.
Yeah.
Like, not every debut is going to be Luke Brooks, and it was like literally the worst possible conditions I could have ever imagined debuting a half in. And I'm not going to say anything negative about Benji Marshall, but to be honest, the way that he handled it, the way that Javon handled it, I think kind of just validated his selection. Because like Benji said in the presser, he's a nonchalant guy. Things don't phase him, and maybe that's the exact archetype of player that we need. That kind of, just everything just doesn't affect, like just marches to the beat of their own drum, almost kind of like autistic savant footballer.
Yeah, he looks super cruisy, and I'm really excited. I'm really hopeful that we do get to see a glimpse of Jatu when Latu returns. That would be excellent if we were able to do that. And I think that if he were to move and get some proper time on the left edge, with the way that Latu has been setting him up, that shit translates. Providing that, and it's a big if, our middle forwards can provide quick play the balls and a platform for him to play off. They'll create plenty of space, and Javon has proven time and time again that he knows how to take the right option.
I reckon it's probably worth having a quick just stats run here of some interesting things that maybe the loss has glossed over. Ethan Roberts, I thought, maybe the answer there. Like he may like actually be the player that we can say, if we can continue to put Dev into him, that we have an actual genuine option for when Kai Pearce-Ball goes down. 35 tackles, only one missed. That's pretty impressive numbers for a guy who's only playing his third first grade game, and first one starting. Also scored a try, obviously. Jared Hayward didn't miss any tackles, which, for defending in the middle in the position that he was in the second half is pretty impressive stuff. I thought, outside of that, I don't know if I'd say he played great, but geez, I loved what Patrick Herbert presented on the field as an image.
Yeah, you know what was the big telling thing for me was when he forced that error on Jed Stewart and he belted him, and Stewart drops that ball and he was screaming at him, screaming.
How good was that, man?
It was, but like that, and like the way that they all got around him signaled to me that this is a team with so much head noise, right? So much head noise, and they're not particularly resilient at the moment. But I think that they still care, and they're still pretty united. I agree with you. Look, he reminds me of Olam in the way that Olam used to just sort of make a beeline and miss the odd tackle coming out of yardage, but it was almost that sort of work that would influence what would happen on the inside. But no, he played with intent. I agree with you. I thought he did some good things there. I thought Alex Twal probably had his best game since his return from injury, to be honest. I thought he was pretty good. Although, again, I think that just through the middle, particularly behind the ruck, was just atrocious. We were just, it just wasn't good enough. I thought our kick chase was pretty poor, and it meant that we started on the back foot once camera got to work. But
I mean, Jerome Luai and Javon Andrews missed 12 tackles between them. That's not good enough, is it? Especially for Jerome.
No, Terrell too. Terrell missed a couple on the line. Stranger's try, and then I think it was Laurie's second try. He's in the picture for both of them. He can't get a hold of either of them. He falls away. They score.
He missed exactly 2. It's the knock on Terrell, isn't it? It's almost like every missed tackle he makes is like a try.
The Sanders try that was scored, Sasungi makes him look like an idiot cutting in underneath him, and then they get a set restart, and then Sanders goes down the field and scores. And I actually think that, again, this is where my conditioning argument comes in, because Terrell wasn't doing that at the beginning of the season. He was the clean-up work guy. It's just more, again, that, it's been a long fucking season. They haven't managed them from a physical perspective correctly. You couple it with the mental things, and this is what you get.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Like that, Terrell May, my perspective on him is that he's an emotional kind of dude, and he could very well be he's probably the one player in this side who probably gets the most affected by noise because he's terminally online.
True.
Like his form could be the most easily related to off-field stuff of all of them. Just on Patrick Herbert, I think it's also worth reminding people that this is a dude who, as far as his body is concerned, and as far as his football, second nature, like his muscle memory, like this is his first year in 4 years. He might as well be a rookie. He's relearning things in real time this year, and I do think that he's getting better every game. So, again, I feel like he's going to be even better for it next year, and I think that if that does prove to be the case, that's something that really Benji Marshall should be applauded for, because that's a crazy get, to get somebody who is genuine upside. An NRL quality player who can provide depth in a position that we have need. I mean, we'd be screwed if we didn't find him. Considering, Stafford, we would have had to have kept Stafford Toll probably. I think, I don't know. I'm probably hyping up Patrick Herbert a bit too much, but I don't know. I just really like the dog in him.
Yeah, me too. Anyway, ugly performance. They had their moments, but realistically, defensively, they're losing the collision, and it's just leading to teams just killing them. New South Wales Cup were pretty poor as well. Obviously, two halves that aren't sort of part of the full-time setup, which I think contributed to some sort of miscommunications on our edges. Speaking of our edges, they weren't very good. Hiamasi was, but Giral and Starford not so much. Heath Mason tried hard, but came up with some errors. I thought Vakaraho was excellent again for the second week in a row, but ultimately not too good. Did you see any of that?
Nah, I didn't watch any. I honestly, I only watched this. Yeah, didn't really watch much footy at all. It's probably why I'm in such a good mood, Jared.
Yeah, that's typically how the game goes. And then Flegg, they came from 12-0 down to lead 18-12 at half-time. Blitz at the end of the first half, and then went on with it. Much needed win for those boys. In terms of where it puts them, it sits them at... On the ladder, sorry, bear with me. I just went to the draw by accident. They're in 6th, so they're on equal points with South, but their points differential is worse. They've just got to keep winning games. It's as simple as that. They win games and they'll make the 5, and they can give it a shake. We know how good they are. Mitch Tautua, class above everybody on the field. He was amazing. I have not watched the full game, but he was brilliant. And Felipe Telesau was wonderful as well. From what I saw. So I need to go back and have a good look at that. Again, similar to you, I didn't watch too much footy on the weekend, but I will go and give that.
And that's okay. And that's okay. I think sometimes taking a little bit of time off is healthy for the mind when you're a fan of the West Tigers.
Yeah, with you there, mate. With you there. Anyway, I reckon we're done. What do you reckon?
Just a quick one. Apparently, according to Gary Rockcliffe on Facebook, there is now an internal investigation into club standards being breached by players and not being enforced by Benji Marshall.
Right. Would you look at that? Okay. All right.
I wonder if, it seems it's a pretty big claim. I would hope that Gary's not just telling porkies, but
Well,
if that's the
there was the talk around
that being,
vaping in the gym.
oh really, vaping in the gym.
Yeah,
What do you love?
yeah. Oh, just the idea of vaping in the gym. It just
Was it Terrell?
you, you can't even do that at a fucking any time, which is why I was giggling. But
Yeah, that's
I'm not too sure.
I did see somebody comment on it. I can't even remember where. So take this with a big grain of salt. But like, Adam Dewey, specific claims were apparently that he felt like there were different standards for different players and stuff like that. So it could be related. And you know what, mate? Like, I mean, at the end of the day, if that is the case, like if there are guys that Benji's sort of mollycoddling a little bit that are kind of getting away with goofy stuff. I can understand why a guy who, has sacrificed and kind of maybe feels like he's on his last legs, like Adam Dewey, might be like genuinely frustrated by him then getting dropped. That's a logical thing to think, and that may be why Benji Marshall was graceful. But I'm kind of through with speculating. But anyway, I think we are done. Hard luck to the NRLW side. That's 2 weeks in a row. They had to play the Broncos and the Roosters back to back. So hopefully that hasn't rocked their confidence so much that they can't get back in the winner's circle when they're playing sides that aren't, hilariously, ridiculously cheating the system. But I digress.
I'm with you. Yeah, I'm expecting a win next week for the girls. Yeah, it's been a tough couple of weeks, but yeah, it'll be hopefully the making of them in terms of how they bounce back, and I'm sure Craig will have them ripe and ready to go. All right, mate, let's get out of here. Thanks everybody again for your support. I know that obviously it's a tough time right now, but stick together, make the club. It's all we can do. One day this title turn, and you got a glimpse of what it's like in those moments at the beginning of this year. When it does permanently turn, we won't have anything to talk about. See you on Friday.
We're only strangers until we realize this life is temporary. An illusion we must fight. Open up your eyes. Gonna be alright.
Gonna be